Well, a good thing COVID has done for us is Dr. Pasha, who is normally based in Singapore, was at Jharkhand, and we could request him, because he was on a work from home mode, and we could request him to come and give us this very important and topical talk, if you will. So just very quickly, Dr. Pasha is a senior officer at the International Trade Union Confederation. So the ITUC, as all of you know, is the world's largest global trade union federation. And Dr. Pasha has been with them for a while, and he is overseeing the activities in the entire Asia-Pacific region. Very specifically, he's been entrusted with expanding the involvement of youth in the trade union movement and developing the capabilities of young trade union leaders in the South Asia region. So if any of you have ambitions in that direction, you have now the possibility of making that connect. He's also a ground-level activist. He has participated in planning and execution of several rallies, demonstrations, and workshops for trade unions affiliated with ITUC around the world. He is also responsible to liaison with the ILO and other global agencies for charting out policy interventions in the field of decent work and child labor. So prior to this, he was working as a program officer at Industrial Global Union New Delhi office. He holds a master's degree in labor studies from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and that is where he overlapped with Professor Randhir Kumar, who's been kind enough to actually invite him to our session today. He has a PhD degree in the area of industrial sociology. So welcome, Dr. Pasha. Thank you for agreeing to be a speaker in these turbulent times, in these times when everybody else is worried about Omicron. You were happy to come and deliver this face-to-face session. We were very keen that within CDEP, we'd actually start the series with a face-to-face session so that all of us felt a little more involved. And we're very glad to start with a very topical issue such as the area of just transitions. Because while carbon transition becomes a very, very important area right now in the context of sustainable development, it's very important that we don't forget the people associated with it. And therefore, thank you for agreeing to do this talk. Over to you.
So good afternoon or good evening, everyone. And thanks to Professor Runa for introducing me in such a nice way. Of course, it is an honor to be here at IIM Kolkata. Today, I'm just giving you a brief about just transition and a trade union perspective for green economy. As Professor Runa said, that I'm working with ITUC, Asia Pacific International Trade Union Confederation. So I will start with ITUC, that what is ITUC and how it's working. So this is the discussion flow chart. I will try to cover all these topics within the time given, 45 minutes. So I will start with the introduction to ITUC, then ITUC just transition and climate change, then experience of ITUC with just transition, especially about some case studies at international and national level. And then I will also speak about COP26 and ITUC demands, that what were demands during COP26, and last but not the least, about the larger discussion and knowledge exchange. So these are the areas which I am going to cover within 45 minutes. So let me start with ITUC. As I said that ITUC, it's world's largest global trade union federation. You could see here that around 207 million workers are member of this ITUC from 331 federation in 163 countries. So, and the main areas of its activities include trade union, human rights, economy, society and workplace, equality and non-discrimination, and international solidarity. It adheres to the principle of trade union democracy and independence, and ITUC has also a close relationship with the global union federations. You might be aware that there are 10 global union federations like IndustriAll, PSI, UNI. So we are working very closely with all global trade union federation, and it works also very closely with International Labour Organization and with several other UN specialized agencies like UNHR. The head office of ITUC is located in Brussels, and Sharon Burrow, who is from Australia, we can say that she is one of the very influential lady, and she is the General Secretary of ITUC. And ITUC, in fact, was established in 2006 with the merger of ICFTU and WCL. But if you will see the history of ITUC, you will find it more than 150 years. From last 150 years, we are working with the name, with the different names. But we established as ITUC as a world power in 2006. Before that, generally we were known as ICFTU. So we had a very glorious past as ITUC. So these are the 4 pillars of ITUC for which we are working. The first one is peace, democracy and rights. Second is regulating economic power. Third, global shift and just transition. Just transition is one of our important pillar for which I am here and I am talking on it. Then equality. When we are talking about peace, democracy and rights, we all know that until or unless if peace will not prevail, we cannot talk about the humans or workers' rights. For example, there are some countries, especially I am talking about in the context of Asia Pacific, so you will find some countries like Afghanistan, Myanmar, then Hong Kong, Indonesia, where we have seen that democracy are at stake. So there we are facing a lot of difficulties in establishing workers' rights. So it is very important for us to work for peace and democracy, so we can also see that workers' rights will be protected. Second, regulating economic power. We all know that we are living in a world where multinational companies are extending like anything. So if we have to work along with the multinational companies, we understand we need a strong international union, and ITUC is, we can say, that is working in that direction. Third, global shift and just transition. When we are talking about global shift, so now ITUC global shift has 2 things. It has distributed in 2 ways. The first one is future of work, and second one is just transition. So when we are talking about just transition, we are also looking at future of work, what should be the future of work. And the fourth one is equality. Equality means here 2 things. One is gender aspect and second is youth. I'm also responsible for youth activities in Asia Pacific. When we are talking about gender aspect, it doesn't only confine to women empowerment or women rights, but it also includes LGBTI, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex. So all those things comes under equality. So we are working according to these 4 pillars. We have our regional offices, 3 regional offices we have. The first one is Asia Pacific Regional Office, which is ITUC AP, we call it, ITUC AP Singapore, where I am based. The second one is the African Regional Congress, regional organization ITUC AF, which is in Lome, Togo. The third one is the American Regional Organization, we call it TUSA. It is in Montevideo, Uruguay, and it also cooperates with European Trade Union Confederation, including through Pan-European Regional Council. So these are our sister organizations, we can say. About South Asia, about Asia Pacific, because I am from the Asia Pacific, and when we are talking about Asia Pacific, so Asia Pacific also have 5 sub-regions: East Asia, Southeast Asia, Oceania, and Pacific, Middle East. So I am responsible for migration, youth, informal economy. When we are talking about ITUC Asia Pacific, so you could see from Kiribati Island to Turkey, this the whole region will come under the ITUC Asia Pacific. So we are having around 34 countries for which we are working only in Asia Pacific. Now come to India. India, we have 4 major affiliates. INTUC, you might know about INTUC, it's Indian National Trade Union Congress. It's a trade union wing of Congress. Second, HMS, Hind Mazdoor Sabha, it's a socialist organization. Third is SEWA, you might also know about Self-Employed Women Association. It is one of the largest women association of India, and fourth is CFTUI. These are our affiliates, and they are all big federations. So we are working along with them in India. So now coming to our topic, that's the global shift, just transition. When we say just transitions, we all understand that it aims to ensure that gains of green transition are shared and the interest of vulnerable workers affected by the green transition initiatives remain protected. We have to also see that how to mitigate the negative impact of climate change and commitments towards promoting a sustainable, just and green economy. And ITUC along with its partner organization has established Just Transition Center in 2016. So we have a dedicated center, we called it Just Transition Center, and we are working along with the Just Transition for lobbying, advocacy. We are also involved in campaign. We are also providing assistance to our trade union leaders to raise the issues of just transition. So if you will see the historical context of just transition, in 1990s we understand that it's a North American unions began developing the concept of just transition. And initially trade unions understood just as a program of support for workers who lost their jobs due to environmental protection policies. And this is still how many outside the union movement see just transition as focused only on softening job losses in sectors such as coal. Definitely I will speak much more about the coal, but this is a kind of perception when we are talking about just transition, that it is only to compensate workers when they are losing jobs because of green economy. But this is not fact. When we are talking about just transition, it's a kind of a comprehensive policy we are talking about. We will see that how ILO, how UN define just transition and what they say about the just transition. What is their plan? So let me start with the ILO. Here you can see that ILO has mentioned that it aims to address environmental, social and economic issues together. It includes both measures to reduce the impact of job losses and industry phase out on workers and communities, and measures to produce new green and decent jobs. Developing plans for transition and transformation that simultaneously consider environmental, social justice and poverty alleviation. So when we are talking about ILO, so ILO believe in two strategies. The first one is strategies that ensure that workers, businesses and communities are supported as countries transition to greener economies, and the second one is to need to ensure that no one is left behind. It is very important to understand that we are saying no one is left behind in the transition to net zero carbon economics, particularly those working in sectors, cities and regions reliant on carbon intensive industries and production. Friends, when we are talking about just transition, as I said that generally it's a kind of perception when we say that those who have lost their jobs, we should compensate them. But this is not the fact. As I said that we need a comprehensive policies. As well as not only for those who has lost their jobs. When we are talking about just transition, we are talking about businesses, we are talking about the workers, we are talking about the environment. We have to also talk about the communities who are dependent on that particular industry. Especially when I will come to the coal, I will also highlight these issues that how the communities who are dependent on the coal industries, they are also being affected, and we are doing very less for the communities. So again, it's a very comprehensive kind of plan, and we have to see that no one will be left behind when we are talking about just transition. Again, when we are talking about United Nations, so you all know that United Nations has developed its Sustainable Development Goal, SDGs, and they have around 17 goals with 169 targets. So when they are talking about, when United Nations is talking about its goal, you will also find the reflection of just transition within that goal, especially when they are talking about decent work and economic growth, goal number 8, you will find it. Affordable and clean energy, which is goal number 7, climate action, goal number 13, and poverty alleviation, which is goal number 1. And we are very closely working with United Nations to work on these goals. We all know that ILO and United Nations are, you have also seen in the previous slide that United Nations is also talking about the decent work. When we say decent work and just transition, how it is related with each other, you can start with the rights at work. We all know that there are 4 components of decent work: rights at work, employment opportunities, social protection and social dialogue. So if we will start with the rights at work, we can say that until or unless workers will not get their right, it is very difficult to have a kind of just transition, to fulfill the project of just transition. Also about the employment opportunities, we are insisting that we have to create job which is a greener job. It will not affect the environment. We also know that social dialogue is very important. When we are talking about social dialogue, we have to understand that it is the core of just transition, and whether it's a bipartite process between unions or employers, or it's a tripartite process that includes government, it is very important, social dialogue. And social protection, which is the fourth component of decent work, it is also very important. Why I am saying it is very important? Because you can understand that social protection, we all know that there is some contingencies in life like sickness, then old age, unemployment, maternity, death. These are the situations when a person is not able, our worker is not able to earn his livelihood or to feed his family. So in this kind of situation, we need social protection. Why social protection is required for just transition? Because if you are not protecting your workers, then these workers will not be easily able to leave their jobs, or to see that they should go for a new job, or they should go for training, skilling or reskilling, which is very important for just transition. So that's why we are saying, and we are insisting that this social protection is very much required if we have to go for just transition. What ITUC and other trade unions have to do with climate change? So there are some quotations are here, you could see. Sharon Burrow, who is the General Secretary of ITUC, she said that just transition plans are a first step to generate the confidence that people need for backing a structural change. These plans need to be constructed through social dialogue with the relevant stakeholders and the national level, at municipal level, and with workers and their unions at the industry and enterprise level. So there are two things. The first thing, that we need to bring confidence. Confidence for the workers, for the people, that if we will go for the just transition, then it doesn't mean that they have to lose their livelihood. So first of all, we have to make them understand that when we are talking about just transition, this is for their benefit. And as a trade union, it is not a very easy task, especially when I will speak about coal mines, coal sector. You will find whenever you will say now, the time has come when we have to go for coal phase out. It's a kind of very sensitive issue for the workers. What do you mean? Are we going to lose our jobs? What will happen to our family? So we, as a trade union, as a responsible trade union, it is our responsibility to make them understand that no, you are not going to lose their job. We are insisting, we are talking, we are convincing the management, we are convincing the government that they should come with a kind of comprehensive plan. Then only we can go for the phase out. So we have to work together, and that can only possible if trade unions will also bring on board of social dialogue. So these are the things which Sharon Burrow has also highlighted. Just transition ensures environmental sustainability as well as decent work, social inclusion and poverty eradication. Then Tony Maher, who is the president of Mining and Energy Union from Australia, he said that global trade unions have successfully campaigned to have a commitment to a just transition inserted into the preamble of Paris Accord. What happened next at the national level will determine if this term has any meaning. So that is also very important. Again, I have put some campaign material here. I wanted to show you. Again, I don't know whether it will open or not, so let it be. I will share all those campaign materials. We are also giving campaign materials to our affiliates. As I said, that we are having our affiliates in more than 160 countries, and we are giving them campaign materials, how they have to, we are also giving them model letters, that how they should write to their employers, how they should write to the government about the just transition, how they should include the agenda of just transition, what kind of activities they have to do. So all those things are there in this PDF. Maybe I will show you later, or when you will get the presentation. So again, I mean, is just transition possible? What are the strategies? So as trade unions, we understand that it's a three-layer approaches. The first one is for enterprise level, second is for sectoral level, and the third one is national level. When we are talking about enterprise level, so definitely we have to work for the creation of decent jobs, reskilling and retaining workers, ensuring a social floor for workers who are retrenched, and investing in communities. Friends, we are also a right-based organization. When we are talking about climate change, when we are talking about just transition, we also see, especially from enterprise level, when we are working, we are looking it from the three right-based issue. The first one is right to know, second one is right to participate, and the third one is right to say no. What is right to know? The first, when you say that right to know, it means that the workers who are working in a particular industry, we understand that the workers should have right to understand that what kind of job they are involved in, or what kind of substances they are using, what kind of dangers are involved in their job, and how much carbon footprints they are producing. So it is a right of workers to know all those things. And it can only happen when social dialogue can initiate and workers will get chance to participate in that dialogue. In many of the places we have seen that there is a kind of body which is called OSH body, Occupational Health and Health Body. So there we have also introduced, now it has in many places it has changed like OSHI body, Occupational Safety, Health and Environment Body. So E has been also included for the sake of just transition. So that is important, right to know. Second, right to participate. As I said, that it is the workers' right that they should also get participant, they should get on board when they are discussing about that what are the remedies or what are the precautions should be taken for reducing carbon footprints. So they will also contribute from their own level. So that is second thing. Third, right to refuse. If workers representatives or workers feel that it will the kind of work which the management or the employers are doing, it is not up to the mark, or it may affect their health, it may affect their environment, if it is danger for the environment. So the workers or the workers representatives should have a right to say or to refuse that kind of work. So these are the things which I understand should have from the enterprise level. Second, for sectors, we have to also see that we need to promote strong climate, labor and just transition target policies and supporting lobbies, positions, and to invest in pre-competitive sectoral collaboration on development, commercialization and dissemination of green technology. When we are talking about sectors, so we have to also see whatever the characteristics of a particular sector is doesn't mean the same with the other sector. Like the kind of carbon emissions which we are getting from the coal mine, it is not from the cement industry. So cement industry is completely different from the coal industry. So we also need to produce, or we need to work for the sector specific plan. Especially for auto sector, for steel sector, for cement sector, for automobile sector. These are the sectors for which we are already started working along with the management, and in some cases we are also getting a very good results. Like for example, Dalmia in India, we could say that its new blended cement, it has reduced around 50% less emission. We got the report from the Dalmia cement. So that's a very good example, and this example is being cited by many other companies across the world that see how Dalmia has reduced 50% carbon emission from its factory with the using of new technology. So this is the case, and there are several other cases. If you will go through ITUC Just Transition website, you will get a lot of such cases where you will find some good results. This is for the sector level. When we are talking about regional or national level, we have to also see that how we can come with a kind of strong climate just transition policy. Here we have to give more stress on policies at national level. That includes green and decent jobs, training and education, sustainable infrastructure and community renewable to back them up. National level, when we are talking, so we have to see that how we can develop this sustainable industrial policy at national level. When we are talking about sustainable industrial policy, again it has three major components. The first one is we understand that sustainable business, second is sustainable job, and third is sustainable environment. If we will have these three components, then we can say that we can have a strong sustainable industrial policy. And of course, we have to work together to achieve this sustainable industrial policy. Now, we are working for a coal mine project in India as well in Indonesia with the support of this organization. You might know about GIZ. GIZ, it's a German-based organization, very closely working with Ministry of environment and nuclear energy in Germany. ILO, you know that it's International Labour Organization, tripartite organization. CAN, it's a climate action network. It's also a worldwide, their presence worldwide. ITUC, which is our organization, Wuppertal Institute, that institute belongs to Germany, and International Institute for Sustainable Development. So with the support of these organizations, there is a project which we call it Just Energy Transition Project for the mining. This project has brought for the mining sector in Indonesia as well as in India, and it is still in the pilot phase. And initially we thought that we will introduce in 3 states, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and West Bengal. Because it's on a pilot phase, so we thought that initially we have to introduce in only Jharkhand. So we have taken 2 districts of Jharkhand. One is Ramgarh and second one is Hazaribagh. And both the districts are very close to each other. And we are working with the support of Coal India Limited, CIL, with the Minister of Coal, with the Jharkhand government, and other stakeholders are involved in that project. We are seeing that how we can support the coal phase out necessary for global climate change, global climate protection and achieving climate ambition goals accelerated through tailored just energy transition. So we have to see, and we are working with them. We are also saying that we should not have only a very good plan for a coal phase out, which is economically viable, but we have to also see that no one will be left behind, especially the workers who are working over there. You might know that around 285,000 workers are working in Coal India Limited, permanent workers. And almost around 250,000 are working as a contract worker. So almost you can say that 585,000 workers are working directly with the Coal India. In Coal India, and apart from these workers, we could say that more than 5 lakhs are directly or indirectly dependent on the coal sector, which we call it community. So when we are planning, we are also seeing that all these community, those who are permanent workers, those who are contract workers, and those who are the community members, they should be on board, and we can formulate such kind of plan which will help everyone. So it is on pilot phase, and we are working on it. Maybe by the next year we will have some concrete in our hand that what exactly we can do, and whatever the results which will come from these 2 districts, we are very much hopeful, and we'll see that how we can implement in other places too. And this is for India. Indonesia, we are also doing the same kind of project. We have taken it. So these are the major things for Just Transition project. As I said that we are also having a kind of dialogue with the trade unions, with many other stakeholders. So when we had a meeting with trade unions, you could see that Koila Shramik Sabha, it is a part of HMS, Hind Mazdoor Sabha. Hind Mazdoor Sabha is one of major affiliate of ITUC. They have submitted this letter, it is written in Hindi, to the management, to Coal India Limited. Their wage negotiation was going on, National Coal Wage Agreement was happening, and it was happening only in Kolkata. I think it was 4 or 5 months back when they were having this meeting, National Coal Wage Agreement meeting, and the union has submitted this letter to the management, where they have asked, which is very important, which I wanted to highlight you here. यूनियन हैज़ यूज द टर्म जस्ट ट्रांजिशन, कि न्यायपूर्ण परिवर्तन ही को हम जस्ट ट्रांजिशन जो से कहते हैं, इसी को क्योंकि जो परिवर्तन हो रहा है उसमें न्याय संगत हो, न्यायपूर्ण हो. तो यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में उन्होंने कहा है. दे हैव पुट ऑल दोज डिमांड्स इन देयर लेटर एंड हैव रिक्वेस्टेड मैनेजमेंट टू पुट द जस्ट ट्रांजिशन वर्ड इन द कोल negotiation. And I am very much pleased to tell you that this word has been inserted in their coal wage agreement. So now the management has to tell that what exactly they are doing for the coal phase out. It is not like that the previous union who are opposing all such initiatives. Now they are saying that as a responsible union, we are very much with you. Only we want that we should be kept in loop, we should be on board, and whatever you are saying, we will definitely convince our people and we will be with you. So that is, we can say it is one of the big achievement. Even you might also aware that around 13,500 crore rupees Coal India Limited is investing in solar energy, and 3,000 crore in coal-based methane. And Coal India is also focusing on other economic activities. You may also surprised to know that Coal India Limited has started selling water, drinking water. They are branding it on the name of Coal Neer. Neer means water, and they have started branding on the name of Coal Neer. What was the reason given behind it? It's not like a coal water. It's a pure water. No, they are also just exploring that what they can do, because you know, when they have to wash coal, so there are a lot, plenty of waters which go into waste. So they are using those water, because if they will leave those water, that will also pollute other water sources. So they are using that water and making it drinking water and selling it. So they are also getting a very good response. That initiative was taken in WCL, Western Coalfield Limited, in Nagpur area. Apart from this, Coal India Limited is also making sand with its coal dust particles, which they call its overburden. So all those coal particles, they are using it as a sand and selling it as building materials at very competitive price. So the second options which they have explored. Third, you might be surprised to know that they are also into ecotourism. Those coal mines, those coal blocks who has been closed, so they are using it as a tourist place. They are asking, people who have not seen coal mines, underground coal mines. So now you can, if you have time, if you get the opportunity, you can go to Nagpur, that Western Coalfield Limited. You will find very mines where they will use it as a for the tourist. However, I know you are from the Kolkata, from the West Bengal. You do not require to go anywhere to see coal. But in case, if you want, as a tourist, you can go. So we could say that with the help of global union federations, with the help of the campaign which we are doing, so such results are coming. So when we are talking about COP26, so it's a two-week climate talks at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, concluded on 12th November with a deal that is insufficient to keep the global temperature rise to below 1.5 degrees Celsius, falling short on ambition, finance, responsibility and inclusion. So these are the four things where we are falling short: ambition, finance, responsibility and inclusion. And Sharon Burrow, who is the General Secretary of ITUC Asia Pacific, she was also one of the main speakers during the inaugural session of COP26. So it's a very good thing that even United Nations agencies are also understanding that without the support of Global Union Federation or without the support of trade union, it is very difficult to implement the agenda of climate change, the agenda of just transition. Despite the limitation and travel restriction brought about by the pandemic, affiliates of the ITUC Asia Pacific were able to participate in the COP26 and join the global trade union movement in amplifying the demands of workers during the climate negotiation. So we have more than, I can say that 100 our affiliates are there in Glasgow to participate in this climate change conference, and they have their own notion about this conference. Some of them were happy and some of them were not happy. I will bring both the views here. First of all, let me tell you that what are the demands we had with COP26. So we went there with 4 demands. 4 key demands. The first one is that raise climate ambition with just transition policies and measures in enhanced nationally determined contribution NDCs. Then implement inclusive climate policies that respect and promote human and labor rights. Third, provide climate finance to change the global development model and decarbonize the global south. The fourth one is implement strong industrial policies and investment plans underpinning the transition to zero emission economics. So these were four demands we had. As I said that we had a very mixed response from our trade unions affiliates. So first response we could say that it says that COP26 failed the people and the planet. Once again, so it's a Josu Mata, Secretary General from Philippines, who is one of our major affiliates. So he said that once again governments and the COP process failed us and the planet. Coming from a country that is in the throes of climate crisis, I could not help but feel disdain for the closeness of governments acting in cahoots with corporations that think they can continue to burn the planet while pretending to act as if they are doing something to save us all. It's you can say a very blunt comment from one of our affiliate. Second comment from our neighboring country, Ripon Chaudhary. He is also a very prominent trade union leader from Bangladesh. He said that Bangladesh is one of the most climate vulnerable nations on earth. The devastating impacts on climate change have put the lives and livelihood of millions of Bangladeshi workers in danger. I participated in COP26 with a hope for greater climate ambition, clear decisions on climate finance for the global south and adoption of an effective loss and damage instrument. But we've only got empty promises in Glasgow. That is one of the major loophole what we understand of Glasgow COP26, because we had a huge talk there, we spoke very good things, but we don't know how we are going to implement, who will finance, where we will, from where we will get the finance. So that is one of the major loopholes of this Glasgow, which we thought that we should highlight it here. But again, it's not like that we got a very bad response or we are very completely unhappy with the Glasgow COP26. Here we also got some good response, like while most of the demands of trade unions were not heeded in COP26, it was again a major win for unions that just transition is explicitly stated in several parts of the text of Glasgow, which was not the case earlier. And Shoya Yoshida, who is the General Secretary of ITUC Asia Pacific, he said that we welcome the recognition in the GCP of the need for support for a just transition. This can be maximized by trade unions as a leverage in demanding their governments to ensure that just transition is included in their nationally determined contribution. So again, we are very much optimistic, and we see that definitely we can work together, we can do campaign and we can bring some changes here despite all these challenges. So when we are talking about challenges, let's see, there are a few challenges I have jotted down here. Workers and communities dependent on fossil fuels will not find an alternative source of income and revenue overnight. We also understand that transformation is not only about phasing out polluting sector, it is also about creating new jobs, new industries, new skills, new investment, and the opportunity to create a more equal and resilient economy. So that is very important, and this is a challenge for us, how to overcome with this. Again, we also know that now everyone is talking about climate change. Even if you will see the corporates when they are publishing their annual records, so you will also see that they are highlighting that how much carbon footprints they have reduced. These kind of things have been taken place, and we can say that the role of investor and investment in fighting climate change is increasingly well understood. New initiatives focusing on disclosures of company, climate plans and risk, portfolio decarbonization, disinvestment and to a lesser extent clean investment and innovation, switching investment to sustainable low and zero emission infrastructure. So these are the things now you will get it in their annual report. But one thing which is still missing, and I understand that the institute like IIM can take this forward, or if you are interested to work in that direction. there is no approach that measure investment both against emission and the generation of new decent jobs and economic diversification for vulnerable communities. So when we are talking about carbon footprint, reduction of carbon footprint, so we are talking about that how much we have invested in it, but we are still not talking about that how much new jobs or decent jobs or green jobs we have created. So we have to also see that how we can work in that direction. I have jotted down few questions here which comes from the issues that how does the regional industries have to develop concerning products, process and qualification of employees. How can new jobs be created at the same time? How can the interest of employees and the environment be brought in line? How to organize a regional mobility concept for workers and employees that grants fast and uncomplicated access for all people in the region, and how to put the interest of the people first during this process. Friends, I also understand that I am Kolkata, and you are widely known for publishing world-class research. So if anyone of you or your students are willing to do some kind of research or want to use it as a research question as ITUC or as ITUC AP, we will be very much happy to extend our support, our solidarity in such kind of research. So last but not the least, I could say that when we are talking about just transition, again I will reaffirm my comments that with social dialogue, government, businesses, trade unions and civil society groups can collaborate in the national industry and community planning and policies that are necessary for a just transition to zero emissions. And yes, there are no jobs on a dead planet, so the alternative is to build good jobs on a living planet. So thank you so much for listening me patiently.
Thank you, Dr. Pasha, for such a lovely that we had, and we got to know about these things. I was not aware, at least not me. So, but that you said that Daimler industry has set up a industry over here, and they have reduced 50% emission. But what I felt is that because they have set up a new industry, they were able to achieve it more easily than the industry which are already here. So it is very difficult for them to reduce emission, but also take care of the workers of their which are already working with them. So they'll need to let go some workers if they want to reduce the emission sometimes. So that's I feel.
So I understand it's not a question, it's like your view. Fine.
If you can comment, because we are going to go in the industries in the future. So if how can we tackle if we face the same situations in the future? If we want to reduce the emission in the industry which is already there, but also take care of the workers who are working over there.
Absolutely right. That's why we are saying that we have to strengthen the social dialogue. When we are talking about social dialogue, so again it's a three level, I mean enterprise level, sector level and national level. So we have to tell the workers whatever we are doing, if we are going to reduce the carbon emissions, so definitely it will affect their jobs too. So maybe, I mean, that's why we are also saying that we need a strong social protection. So some things, if such things will arise, so these workers will cover with the strong social protection and will not have to suffer a lot. So these things we have to work together and we have to see. As I said, as I have given the example of Coal India also, that still they are doing at a very small extent, but they are doing, and if they will get success, they will do at the larger extent also, and we are seeing it as a job opportunity for the workers when the coal phase out will be seen. So these are the things which we understand, and the same will going to be implemented for other sectors.
Thank you.
Well,
okay, Dr. Pasha, thank you for very enlightening presentation about many aspects which in the HR area, being in HR area and trying to understand the issues linked to the climate change. It was really a very nice presentation. I have a couple of questions. One is related to, in fact, the two questions are interrelated. So in last 4 or 5 years, as you would be aware that the Indian Labour Code or the Labour laws also made transition, and while India also, committed something in the Paris Accord, and just transition was included at that time, Indian government also made some commitment at that time. So at the same time, the dialogue was going on when the labor codes were being, negotiated and unions were involved, etc. Because some of these issues, when you say making transition, just transition, for example, we identify reskilling, transfer, or re-employment of the people who might be laid off, who may lose their jobs in, let's say, sectors like coal, and they will be needed to move to the green jobs, so on and so forth. So was there any kind of, influence, lobbying or negotiation when these laws were being, debated, discussed? Because there are certain aspects which were brought in, but not necessarily keeping in mind climate change. For example, now they have included something called reskilling fund, etc., as a part of the new labor code. So wherein you are talking about, training the laid off employees, etc.
Sorry, what they have included as a part of
Reskilling, as a fund, which is part of the new labor code. Now.
Reskilling,
Earlier it was
okay.
not there. Earlier it was not there.
Mhm.
So is there any negotiation, or that has happened? Now it's a law now. But then, is there any negotiation or influence from your organization or any organization on that count, where such transition can also be included in the framework, national, framework of labor laws, etc.? Because otherwise, it is left to the individual organizations or initiative in the sectoral level initiatives. But if it is part of the national framework,
National level, yeah.
so
National level.
was there any such negotiation which happened, or is it something that organizations like yours is thinking about it? Because India is a very big player as far as coal industry is concerned, and the transition it will have to make. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks that you have brought the issues of India's commitment in Paris Accord. Definitely, when they are saying that they are going to reduce carbon emissions, so it means a lot for the world. But sometimes we also get a kind of contradictory statement. At the one side, you will see that our Prime Minister is saying that we will reduce carbon emission, and on the other hand, our coal minister, he will say that this coal mines will not going to end next 30 years, that is going to survive. So this kind of contradictory statement also make us confused that what exactly our policy is and what we are doing. So that is one thing. Second, about the labor laws, changes in labor laws, we all understand that now we are having 4 codes. And that code is on wages, social security, industrial relation, and health and safety. Though they are talking about skilling and reskilling, and from the trade union point of view, we have one of the major arguments, or we have the major opposition of these labor laws. One of the drawbacks which we are saying that it has not highlighted the issue of just transition in this 4 code. So that was also one of the reason which we are opposing labor code. And it is not only that Congress affiliated union, which is INTUC, is opposing, but also if you will see that RSS affiliated union, BMS, or BJP affiliated union, BMS, they are also making the same statement. No, we are not happy with these labor codes, and still the process of changing is happening in the labor code too. For example, they have changed the concept of factory inspector. Yeah, so they said that now it will be a facilitator, but again now they have changed it to inspector. So that kind of things and that kind of negotiation is happening, going on with the government. And though we are working for the welfare of workers, but we are a non-political organization. And in most of the countries you will find that we are working with both the organization. So our target is that we have to work for the betterment of the workers, not for the political gain. So that is one thing. About the national policies, yes, we are working and we are trying to convince our leaders, especially in a sectoral level. As I said, that we are working for the cement sector, we are working for the steel sector, we are working for the mining sector and the automobile sector initially. But definitely, until and unless if we will not take this up to the national level, we will not fulfill the dream of just transition. So we have to work on that direction. We are seeing that how we can work. The another major problem with the recent government, that apart from BMS, they are not willing to listen any other unions. So that is also, I mean, a big issue. So when we are talking about social dialogue, you should not discriminate on the basis of which political ideology you are talking about. When you are a government, you are a government for the whole country. You have to listen everyone, whomsoever is saying for the benefit of the worker, for the benefit of the society. So these are the issues which we are dealing with, and it is not this kind of issue we are facing only in India. Across the world, more or less, we are having the same situation. But we are fighting. We are trying to convince.
Dr. Pasha, can I have few comments to make. I was going through your slides. I found them to be quite sanitized. Have trade unions become so sanitized? It's a sign of the times. Because when you say that there should be a dialogue between different stakeholders and all that, this is the language of the NGO. It's not so. So I thought trade unions, they are, if nothing more, they are advocacy groups. They have a sense of their entitlements. They fight for their demands. So some of these, typical international NGO language, I'm not saying anything about your presentation, but that's across the board I see. So that's number one. Number two, also it's related to that. You were harping on this fact that the mere fact that we have included this term, that itself is a sign of victory, some sort of triumph. So that also reveals something about the power of the trade unions, where we are very much happy with the discursive victory, even if there is no substantive victory. Discursive victory itself is good enough. And the last point, I'm not very confident about the commitment to these goals, either by Indian state or Coal India, because I was reading a few days back, the same Coal India, which is launching this coal need and doing other things, is investing, something like 13,760 crores in 3 states, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Odisha. What for? To transport coal from the collieries, and they are giving this money to the railways. So they are building railway tracks. So when on the one hand we are talking of Glasgow and Paris Climate Summit, back home, Coal India is investing thousands of crores to lay down railway tracks to expedite the transportation of coal from the colliery to the power plants. These were the comments. You did not respond to them, my half-baked comments.
Good evening, sir.
Just one comment, because he's from sociology and I also did my PhD in sociology. So I completely understand what we were taught during our college days, what is trade union and how it's functioning. So it's completely, I can say that it's completely different what we were taught. But sometimes it's a time, need of the hour, need of the time. So we have to also see that how we can work and bring everybody on board. So I appreciate whatever you made the comment here, Professor.
Good evening, sir. This is Premchand Meena, MBA second year. So my question is that, as you mentioned, you are dealing with a lot of labor unions across the political spectrum. So is there some form of work on your part that you want to, dwell the whole conversation to the grassroots levels? Like the leaders that are there at the grassroots level, at decentralized level, are they also talking about this whole just transition thing, or is it all a very centralized thing? So is there a program to ensure that even they know about this whole issue?
Definitely, again, very good question. And if you will see that when we are talking about a strategy, we are talking about 3-level strategy: national level, sectorial level, and enterprise level. When you are talking about enterprise level, so it means that unit level, we have to percolate down whatever the initiatives which we are taking at the international level, we want to percolate down to the masses, and it only can happen when we will do it at the establishment level. And when we are talking about these unions, so they are all federation, national federations at national level. If you will see their memberships are in crore, let me tell you. So even in West Bengal today, I had a meeting with, I will have a meeting with INTUC General Secretary, who is from the West Bengal. So it means that whatever the union which we are talking about, they have a very strong hold in different part of the country, and it is their responsibility to bring them down to the masses, and we are helping them.
So thank you. So first of all, I would like to express CDEPS and IIM Calcutta sincere gratitude that Dr. Pasha accepted our invitation and he made sure that he is physically present here. So earlier his request was that can he give it online. But then on our insistence, he was for some work in Mumbai. So he chose to come to IIM Calcutta. So we are really privileged to have you here, and many thanks for giving your presentation. So it was also an enlightening journey for us, because CDEP, after a long, say, period, we have kick-started with new initiatives, and just transition was one of the topic which we were very much interested in. And your presentation has given us a lot of idea. So we specifically understood that what are the challenges of just transition and what role does social dialogue can play in achieving it. So I wish ITUC, you and your member organization, all the affiliates, all the best, and to achieve this particular endeavor. And at the same time, we are also very grateful that you have offered to help our doctoral students or any other faculty member or colleagues who are interested in this particular topic. So I would also advise that if the doctoral students, if they want to work in this particular field in general, or maybe if you need access to the organizations through Dr. Pasha, you are most welcome to get in touch with him. So he will definitely help in getting access to the industry sector, or maybe to any of the resource person through which he can help to facilitate. Then I would also like to thank all the faculty colleagues and the students and other members who were able to make to this presentation. So definitely we are really grateful that you took out some time from your busy schedule to come here. And a special thanks to the convener, Runa. So she worked tirelessly to make sure that this particular seminar was hosted. And Dr. Pasha is the first one in the upcoming series of speakers, which we are going to invite in future. So my sincere request would be that over a period of time, whenever CDEP organizes such activity, so please try to join our endeavor and contribute through your discussion. So thank you.